facilitador número uno, ¿seréis tan amables de contarnos ese relato? Venga, vamos a por ello.
Bueno, buenos días a todos. Gracias por vuestra asistencia, por vuestro trabajo, y rápidamente vamos a exponeros lo que hemos estado charlando, como ha dicho Rafael, y a las conclusiones a las que hemos llegado. Realmente en nuestro taller partimos de una ventaja, y es que la sesión inicial, las intervenciones de las que disfrutamos el miércoles estaban ya de por sí bastante sintonizadas, ¿no? Entonces ha fluido muy bien la conversación en general, y la toma de postura y de acuerdo entre los participantes, ¿no? El mismo título del taller ya da idea del reto principal al que desde el punto de vista de jardines nos enfrentamos, ya no en los próximos 5 años, sino ya en el tiempo en el que estamos, ¿no? Que es al afrontar el cambio climático que estamos sufriendo y que sufriremos, y al cual nos tendremos que adaptar o sobrevivir.
a different approach. We had engineers from different fields, and Juanra is also working in the field of biology. And in the scenario of the climate change that we are facing, water in the south of our continent, in the south of the Iberian Peninsula, 37 degrees of latitude. So water now is a very scarce. We are facing scarcity and also extreme weather conditions. And in this situation, we have identified for the first question three main elements. First of all, well, we've started with the general point of view and then specific things. We need to make sure that we have hydric security, both in quantity and quality, for irrigation when we are facing this kind of scarcity, and also in the monument and heritage site we are located, we need to balance or to make sure that we have the right cohabitation of these heritage objects and monuments with the new technologies, with a system for monitoring, remote monitoring everything, and also taking into account the conservation of biodiversity that is linked to water and water spaces, and also to have a hydric plan focusing on hydric resilience. These are the three elements we have identified for the first question. Regarding the actors or stakeholders, we have obviously insisted on the need of integration. When we talk about the Patronato, the Council of the Alhambra and Tenerife, we need to integrate all the different services and companies working together for managing this monument. The Hydrographic Confederation of the Guadalquivir, it is important as well, as we are using the water of a river, and we are working with other users upstream and downstream, so there is an interrelationship with different rights. So we have the users of the river called Darro, and also taking into account the historic session of water, transfers of water. So as the quality of water is very important, and we are not only talking of suspended solids and also materials linked to agriculture or urban uses. It is a living thing and living mean. So, and also we need to include universities and research centers, because we need also to tackle new projects with the highest level of knowledge, the highest possible level of knowledge. And well, the last question is to have a specific plan for hydric resilience, integrating all these irrigation maps and more efficient use in the different circuits that are used in our monument. We want to develop the system for remote monitoring. It is also something that already exists, but well, we have also other companies that are managing that. We also need a filtering and purification station before the water arrives to our monument, and also improve the diversity linked to the biodiversity linked to the water that we have inside our monument. We haven't talked about training, but I think that all the members of our workshop will agree with the need of internal training for all the staff working in the field. Well, there are very interesting tools like there is micro-credential possibilities in order to train together with the University of Granada, allowing that the staff has like a title, a specific title or diploma when you do this kind of training. It is a very interesting tool for that. Thank you very much, Javier. Thank you. And now we are going to have 2 workshops here in just one. We had the part of safeguard and conservation. Both were combined in a single workshop, and he will bring the board. So this is the advantage of being close to the main room. They are engineers, so they are very practical, very efficient. As architects, we are not so well organized, but please use the mic. Thank you. So we thought that it would be, it was very painful to mix both workshops, and we managed to face it. And things need to be done. So having these 2 workshops together has allowed us to bring some light to several things that, can be dealt with within the patronato, the institution. So we've pointed out several needs. When we talk about the challenges in this safeguard plan, thank you very much. Thank you. We mentioned things like the need of having a management plan that will be transformed into a self-protection plan, and and that will include all the different elements of the safeguard plan or the risks detection. So we pointed out the need of starting with the different documents or plans that needs to be used in order to have the different guidelines that we will follow in the future. So without a management plan, we cannot have this self-protection plan afterwards. So at the end, we will have this safeguard plan. So we pointed out the different needs. This self-protection plan should not be only a document, but it should have a practical implementation, a good coordination, and a commitment from all the different stakeholders. So the document itself is important because we need to include the main elements in this plan, but it will be really useful once we have a trained staff with a commitment and a specific adaptation, as the example you mentioned yesterday in the mosque of Córdoba, Mezquita de Córdoba. This was the main challenge that was mentioned during our workshop regarding the safeguard in these self-protection plans. Regarding conservation, first of all, we need to know what we have around us. I gave an example when we decide to create a project, we first need to have several things. we've realized that the Alhambra is also like palaces, a city, a territory, as Granada was a different site. So we need to have a previous knowledge that allowing us to make progresses and to use the specific technology or the different challenges regarding our environmental sustainability. If we don't have this previous knowledge, we cannot execute those objectives. And also the conservation or the reinforcement of the resources. It is sometimes when we are inside the administration and we want the Alhambra to be a public administration, if we have the training, we need to have a staff that is well trained, and because they are going to face daily challenges, and it is key in order to be able to maintain the monument and manage it in a very appropriate way. This is the summary of what we've mentioned during our workshop. This, mixing both workshops highlighted the need not only to have a higher coordination, because we all know the job we need to do, but besides that, we need to focus on the decision-making processes, because sometimes in our own field, we know what our role is, but when we have kind of problems or disagreements or things like that, we need to be able to set specific aims that can be executed among all the different services or departments, even if we don't agree the same thing. Sometimes we can manage and plan a project, but we need to execute it at the end. Sometimes there will be mistakes, but we have to execute the project itself. So this coordination requires a stakeholder that would be taking the decisions and will manage those decisions. As a challenge, we've seen that an organization needs to have a better coordination and a higher amount of dialogue between all the different departments, and we think that this is one of the main challenges of this council of the Alhambra and Generalife. We need to improve the decision-making processes and its coordination, and to work in order that the efficient management of those resources will be possible if we have this higher amount of coordination. And if those decisions are taken based on the specific studies and evidence and everything, the main objective needs to be the conservation of the monuments. Thank you very much for that. So coordination, this is very important. Well, in-house coordination and to have internal and external resources for a common goal. And now, we will start with the last workshop from the point of view of tourism and the professionalization of this activity. A big round of applause for him as well.
Okay, so they brought their panel as well. Well, apologies on behalf of Beatriz. She had to attend an important meeting, so I'll try to do my best during these 2 working days or conference days, we've have the opportunity to see this big picture about tourism in different heritage monument sites, and that's our starting point from these the images we saw about this massive tourism. So we do not want that, but we are also afraid of stopping the massive tourism because many economic initiatives will be affected by the lack of tourism. So we need to create a tourism that we need to believe that it is very essential to protect the monument, and that would be the base to finally get to a different tourism model. For this model, we need to be able to enjoy the visit again, avoiding the crowds of people that we've seen in those pictures. And so our proposals for that goal would be, first of all, calculate the carrying capacity of the different spaces composing the monument or the site. How many people can visit a same space at the same time? Allowing a nice, comfortable visit, unforgettable visit. But at the same time, we have to manage a great number of visitors. So in order to avoid massification, our only way is to diversify. This involves creating a number of storytelling that allow us to give our visitors what they're looking for. Some visitors, some profiles will be more interested in architecture, others will be more keen on the green parts of the monument, other ones both. But we have to carry out this segmentation work by doing studies and then designing proposals, new offerings that allow us to increase our visitors offering, but without overusing the spaces. It may look difficult, but we're trying to create new proposals that are innovative, creative, and many of these ideas are already in our minds. We can give the example of also the carbon footprints, or how many cities are now are close to the driven to the traffic. So these are new measures that are different and that can help us get to a more sustainable tourism model. Well, thank you very much. And Montse, I think all these people deserve a little break. What do you think about half an hour break? Or whatever you want. And then we will come back here again all together to share this manifesto. Okay? Well, hello again. Looks like we are getting to the end of this conference, and to do so, as a final exercise, we have this synthesis, this manifesto that we are going to turn into a brief story, where we're going to cover what we've been seeing during these days. So the idea is to get away with a brief idea of all that we've seen and lived during these days. So the opportunity of having the participation of experts, different profiles that work internationally and that are going to share with us experiences that can show us a very rich and very wide vision of inputs and insights for this master plan. This is a great privilege, and this what we've been doing these 2 days. So now we want the participants to give this big picture, and we've done that through these 5 sessions, 4 sessions actually. This will be the 5th. And so in the first session, we focused on climate change and its impact on cultural heritage, and we've approached 2 scales. First of all, gardens and water, and then a second vision that is more contemporary, and it is how technology can irrigate the river of knowledge. How can we adopt this wide vision, or what we called this location or situational consciousness? So what's happening around me and what can I do? And from there, emergency plans related to potential disasters that can affect cultural heritage, and finally a look at the great protagonists here: tourism, the city, this environment that hosts and also that has to cope with cultural heritage. And first session, as we said, was focused on the challenges of climate change, and its goal was to see how to adapt but at the same time protect or preserve in this changing context. So in an organization such as the one of the Alhambra, the council that is responsible for protecting this site, where water and hydric engineering are so essential. So for that, we were lucky enough to have the participation of 5 experts that shared a global framework first, and then specific case studies. So climate changes and gardens are responding to that. So here we highlighted how important is plant succession that should be data guided, that should go together with efficient irrigation, protect heritage. So for that, Raúl Curtis reminded us that planting means thinking centuries ahead in the face of climate change. His landscape succession plan turns the garden into a living laboratory where science, horticulture, and education are intertwined, adapting species, learning from other climates, and communicating the ecological and cultural value of each tree are now actions of leadership and a way of taking care of our present to sow the future. And now we continued with Albert Fekete, who took us to the Hungarian gardens and also to those of Tuscany to show us a shared problem. Traditional species in historic European gardens are endangered. So, faced with an increasingly hot and dry climate, he proposes a response that is as scientific as it is poetic. He proposes to preserve the genetic heritage of our plants, experimenting with new species, and above all, caring for both the beauty and the ecology that define the identity of our landscape. Then we go to Saxony, that is currently examining its gardens, and also with this scientific approach, but also with the gardener's hands. Heat and drought have left their mark. More pruning, more monitoring, more science. In this sense, Claudius Weck articulated a three-pronged response: soil, water, and trees, with sensors, data, and new watering routines, while cultivating more resilient plants, but without betraying the memory of the place. The community is joining in this vision throughout opening seminars and throughout participation. What Dr. Claudius proposes is that tradition and technology go hand by hand, so the garden remains alive, authentic, and it is safe. Javier took us through a living mosaic where water becomes architect, from the Acequia Real Canal that flows from the Darro River to the underground water control rooms, tradition dialogues with sensors and valves. Boxwood gives way when necessary to the more resilient myrtle. Who knows? The ponds now breathe thanks to the filter plants and amphibians, natural filters actually. They prove how great the quality of our water is. So between heat waves and capricious winds, we need to plant shade. And it is also a strategical point. He conveyed to us that caring for orchards, forests, and gardens is caring for the health of the monument, and also, of course, the health of the city, which is the extended surface, the extended area of the monument. So many cities and monuments are very close together. And to finish with this first session, Paola Viola tells us how the Royal Palace of Caserta considers itself a green museum that learns from the climate, that adapts and changes. So after storms and heat waves, the team combines science and craftsmanship, always based on expertise, so with sensors, vegetation rates and index, and 3D models that reveal the biography of each tree. Water, this narrative resource, as it is here in the Alhambra, demands controls of quality and of the closed cycles. We're talking here about circular economics of water, and we have a final image that is very pragmatic, replacing without betraying the architecture of the garden, making evolve our gardens. So we're taking care of fishes and olm oaks and planning for decades in order to make the historic landscape remain alive and also legible. And with that, we go to the second session. Okay, so for the second session, the first lecture was focused on the conservation of cultural heritage throughout new technologies and environmental commitment, and the slogan would be innovation at the service of the shared memory. We've been dealing with AI, sensors, and different strategies to ensure a sustainable conservation. So Juan starts from a common scenario: data everywhere and little actionable knowledge. So he proposes to teach the building to talk, and he adds that with new technologies we can achieve it. So we can model these buildings as a digital twin, organize its data in graphs, and this way a manager can ask the building, how are you feeling today? And this is the case in the Hospital Real, where we have already integrity and expiry metrics. It's not magic, it's data governance, small models, and questions such as what if that avoid touching the replaceable. Then Elisa proposes the life cycle analysis as the method to ensure sustainability, not only in terms of materials, but also in terms of its impacts on the people in charge of the conservation task, the human side of sustainability. So Pilar Ortiz invites us to view heritage as a living entity that ages and learns alongside its community. She proposes moving from theory to practice, measuring risks, training citizens and services, and of course using AI and satellite data to anticipate disasters. Her case studies that range from Antequera to Popayán show that resilience stems from the social fabric as much as from technology. We need to prepare beforehand, coordinate during the event, and then afterwards carry out a documenting work. This is the life cycle of sustainable heritage. The presentation of Susana brings climate change down to earth into day-to-day reality of heritage. For that, she uses a measure, which is calculation of the carbon footprint. First of all, we measure, depending on the different scopes. Then we reduce with realistic plans, and finally we offset. And we do this in our territory in Andalusia. And that's how we bring together offsetting, joining together innovation, culture, and nature. So the Andalusian SAFE, the system for offsetting emissions, simplifies procedures, and it is also an open door to sustainable events. And we want to advance in this, so we are opening the door, as I said, to sustainable events, where we communicate how mobility of the visitors and of the audiences is something we need to manage, such as is the same case with tourism. So with blue carbon projects, Andalusia adds science and rigor to a close and verifiable offsetting. The final debate in this session highlights the need for ethics, regulation, and awareness raising about AI in order to limit the negative impacts and without jeopardizing its cultural values. So we need to turn AI into an ally, and we also highlight the exemplifying role that must play the administrations. We need to communicate what we do so we can finally set example for the whole society, for our context, our territory. So adaptation to climate change must be based on the assessment of specific hazards and risks, and must be managed in an adaptive way. And finally, we should prioritize an ongoing maintenance and life cycle analysis for material and processes. So the next session was focused on response mechanisms for the protection of cultural heritage in emergencies and disasters, with the self-protection plans, safeguard plans, and risk maps that help us to ensure an efficient response. So here there is a key slogan or a key sentence that will be from risk to resilience, plans that save heritage. So Juan Carlos goes from the emergency to the methodology and protects before, during, and after the event. Lorca taught us that zero time requires a cool head and clear rules. First of all, we save lives and stabilize the situation. Then we inspect with qualified technicians. We record everything and we do not lose evidence. Never. The decrees approved helped us decide or identify who pays, and then the master plan help organize stakeholders, insurance actors, and priorities. And the big lesson learned is records are not enough. Papers is not enough. Everything is possible on paper, but we need a daily culture applied every day in favor of safeguarding with reversible criteria and real coordination. Agustin told us the story of the Cathedral Mosque of Cordoba, a living plan that is revised because of legal changes that must be adopted, and that it is tested with drills and partnerships and alliances. On the night of the fire, I think we all remember that night when we saw on the news that the mosque cathedral in Cordoba was burning. That night, statue detection, the network of hydrants, and a good coordination with the emergency call center 112 relieve the security guard and speed up decisions. So firefighters who already knew the routes, numbered decks, and safety records prevent for further damage. After 3 hours, the fire is finally under control. Art pieces are saved, everything is documented, and lessons learned are incorporated into the next cycle of improvement. So it is a great example of how detection drills and safeguard can turn a threat into resilience. Veronica, tell us about a decade of work to move from heritage as non-traditional issue to an operational European capability. She shared with us how a common language, joint training, and coordination in peacetime make a heritage protection part of the first deployment. Real cases, bulletins, and MODEX exercises show that caring for heritage also strengthens community resilience. She concludes with the decision of the European Union adopted in April 2025 in order to establish specific dedicated modules for cultural heritage. Javier invited us to have a look at where the climate really hits. It is not the big disaster that ruins heritage, but the repeated blows of wind every day, targeted rain and sun every day. This also causes damages. So using photogrammetry and sensors, the rescue project reveals directional patterns of erosion and proposes specific and discrete barriers or shields, sometimes as simple as a row of trees. Before covering a monument, let's measure and orient the protection. Less spectacle, more preventive sciences. So finally, for this roundtable, we insist on how heritage values must be at the center, with a good planning, with a good identification of stakeholders, and with a responsible communication. Also, in this case, we can find a very good ally in science as well as in management level and at the community level. And here I would add how important it is to not forget and to include in the revision of the documents all the lessons learned. And then we go to the last session, focused on cultural heritage and economic and social sustainability. Here we see how important heritage is in order to promote a fair economy, balanced economy between those living and supporting heritage and those visiting it. So it is about trying to promote responsible tourism and professionalization in this industry. And for that, we had a great panel with 5 speakers who started with Celia Martinez with her keynote speech, who proposes changing the script for cultural tourism from more is better to better for everyone. The ICOMOS Charter, approved in 2022, positions heritage as a common good and access to culture as a right, demanding that visitor capacity or carrying capacity be measured and interpretation be professionalized in order to educate and protect. It calls for shared governance and fair benefits and incorporates climate action with local knowledge. Alhambra here appears as a living laboratory for applying this transformative model. We have this here, and it is a very useful access for a world level meeting. So Javier Sayers, in the next intervention this month, was the cliché of the historic museum district Cáceres is a neighborhood, offices, festivals, and everyday life. The key here is to plan a very clear city model and a plan of plans that is able to translate into task budgets and responsible parties. He acknowledged the scarcity of data and proposes the integration of everything in GIS systems, and in order for managers to be able to better organize these intensive uses. He shuns external recipes and advocates for tailor-made solutions, measuring gentrification, ensuring accessibility, and activating this buffer zone that protects the city from within, from inside. Libertad Troitiño invite us to view the Alhambra and heritage destinations as living cities, complex, fragile, and a word I really like, systemic places. She acknowledges that the UNESCO label drives visitor flows and forces management within limits. She advocates getting down to earth, relying on daily data and heat maps that help us make decisions on real time. And she proposed this capacity of making real-time decisions. She rejects the copy-paste plans, just as Javier, and calls for professionalization and localized solutions in order to balance conservation, habitability, and visitor experience. Why not? And also living experience.
Jarna Propovic transformed the labor young people into emerging professionals, people with a solid training who ask for real places where they can learn, collaborate, and decide and participate. She travels through European networks and the e-commerce EP group, emphasizing two ways intergenerational dialogue and mentoring can be used in order to avoid simply giving young people a seat without context. The context is given by experience with this triple transformation, social, digital, and green. It is like her compass, and this will allow to have an informed and gradual incorporation into forums and decisions, taking care of the present while ensuring the future. To conclude this session, Antonio Jesus proposes or suggests to view heritage as a driver of shared prosperity. After years during which he has focused on creating shareholder value, he advocates for a broader formula. What we receive only exists if we manage what we give. Management to invest, explain, disseminate, and engage. The Alhambra has high potential, but this requires collaborative ecosystems in order to organize tourist flows and align all the stakeholders so that everyone wins, and not only from the economical point of view, but also emotional one. Culture is not it is an affective good, and multiplies benefits the more it is shared. We finished this section with a round table and with several conclusions that were shared. To professionalize means to care. Technicians, managers, and communities need to co-design experiences with clear boundaries and real-time data. And also, ethics and accessibility underpin the narrative. Authenticity, inclusion, and continuous evaluation are the key to tourism that can be regenerating one and not only be a resource. Today we have shared the different works that were done during the workshops, and we have shared what we've seen during the workshops, 4 workshops, 5 topics, and we tried to answer very powerful questions. those questions were, what are the main challenges we are facing? That was not easy at all. We tried to join the point of view of the key people that were in this Congress, and in 1 hour and 15 minutes, you all created the starting point of a work that will be translated or will produce a master plan. And we also talked about the key stakeholders that were involved in order to bear in mind these codependencies. And we try to reach a first image, a first picture of what is best or what can be achieved in the next 5 years according to the resources that we already have. After these workshops, and as our facilitators shared, well, they insisted on the fact that having own resources and connecting everything with the point of view of the visitor, it is very interesting and important. We need to have our own resources to make sure that we can do the adaptation in the long term. We've talked about water and the importance of having an hydraulic plan connecting the whole community, not only the in-house community, but also people from the outside. We've seen the importance of internal governance with these safeguarding plans and this conservation vision, and trying to coordinate all that can only be achieved if we have specific mechanisms within the organization itself, and allowing listening to others and having a good coordination and avoiding those silos in which we work on our daily basis, and in order to fight for a common objective, a common aim. And this is the big challenge of an organization. We need to be able to listen internally to what others have to say and put that into, taking advantage of that for the common goal. And we have also talked about tourism, the capacity of having a shared message that will be shared with the citizens, and that the learning we've reached all together can be transformed into a professionalization capacity. The concept of monument or heritage has a very interesting tool, and this tool are those people that work in there, and we need to use technologies, but also our human resources, and tourism and sustainability are really key. And also, the last part of this chapter requires to think about something that is very important for us in this patronato, and that is the Sierra Nevada, the mountains from this observatory that has allowed us to have an inspiration in order to see the changes from the climate, weather point of view. And the big player of Sierra Nevada is snow. And we all know that snow, even if it seems something very homogeneous, it is very heterogeneous. So every snowflake is like it crystallizes in what we call a speck of dust. So this synthesis, what we've shared here, is also a speck of dust that will allow us to have a biggest thing. So from my side and on behalf of Monse, thank you very much for allowing us to have this speck of dust in order to have a bigger crystallization afterwards. Thank you very much, Rafael, for being here to share the experience that you've developed in your leadership center. I think it is very interesting in order to deal with very complex problems, and also to have a starting point for the master plan. It is a project that requires so many different points of view in order to reach those solutions, that the only way of doing that is starting by listening a lot to what the others have to say. And I will mention the SDG number 17, though the SDG about alliances. I think that these days are the final result of those alliances, and I hope it will be the base, the starting point as well for the drafting of this master plan. This experience has been a very good learning for me. I will copy the proposal for many other things, and I hope it will be really useful. Well, I think it's like with magic. There is when in magic tricks, there is one part that you can see and the other that you cannot see. Today we talked about language model, like natural languages model, and AI and other tools that are used for human contacts as well. Never forget that technology is useful for contacts between people. So we need to have the opportunity to listen, to look at each other. This is something that AI will never be able to do. I mean, technology and people thing when we talk about digitalization, and when we think about many things, the human experience is the most important one. I mean, this is the most important thing in order to start working together, not AI. Okay, thank you. Okay, first of all, sorry, apologize from Rodrigo because he's ill and he could not make it to be here with us today. But on behalf of him, I would like to thank you all for your participation and your efforts, because this workshop and this meeting has been a good moment, because we have a lot of work ahead of us for drafting this master plan for the Patronato or Council of the Alhambra and Generalife. We started this journey a few months ago. I would like to thank the University of Granada and Montserrat, our Vice President of Infrastructure and Sustainability. Thank you to you. Thank you to all your team, because it was essential for the success of this event. I would like to thank all the different services of the Council, the Patronato, the services of public visits, conservation and services, and the colleagues from Gardens, Amelia, Jose Carlos, Nacho, Rafa. Thank you very much for your work and for being devoted to your work as well. And they all work a lot every day. And thank you very much to all of you for this the organization of this event. And it is very valuable because we used the word integration. The integration is integrating science, technology, management. The moment we are living in our planet currently, and the moment we are living for cultural heritage and properties require to have a common work together in order to give an appropriate answer to these challenges. We've tried to combine different fields and disciplines. So thank you very much to all of you coming from abroad: Raúl, Albert, Claudius, Veronica, Elisa. Some people are not here because they had to leave, but those coming from here as well, thank you very much. And, well, I really appreciate all your efforts. And let's keep on working together and keep on finishing these conclusions with other teams from the university and teams from the council, the Patronato of the Alhambra and Generalife, and we hope to see each other again in this fabulous monument in which we have the privilege of working, and we also have a big responsibility that we are facing with a big commitment as well. Thank you very much and have a great day.